Hello soulmates, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is the first time of seeing my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for watching. So in today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this alternate corset top that is backless. And if this tutorial is one you're interested in, please join me while we get started. Okay, so on my pattern paper, I'm going ahead to mark the lines for my chest line, bust line, under bust, waistline. So if you notice from that starting line, which is my shoulder line, I marked my chest line, I marked my bust line, which is 9.5, under bust 13 inches, waistline 6 inches, and I also marked my hip line. So the distance between the waist and the hip is 8 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and label it the bust line, under bust, waist and hip. Okay, so and also the chest line. So now for us to determine how I got my chest line, I'm going to first of all come to the starting line, which is the shoulder line, and mark shoulder measurement divided by 2. Mine is 14 inches, so divided by 2 is 7. From that 7 inches, I came down by 1 inch, and from that 1 inch, I marked 7 inches, which is my armhole depth. To get this, I did my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5, and I had 7 inches. So that was how I got my chest line. That line became my chest line. So I just went ahead to outline the line properly for us to see. Then I mark a neck width of 3 inches, which I'm going to connect to the 1 inch I came down from the shoulder line for my shoulder slope. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take the midpoint of my armhole depth, and I'm going to come in by 0.5 inch. Then from there, I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 on my chest line, and I'm going to be connecting these points together to get my armhole curve. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to be marking my bust span divided by 2. That is the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. And mine is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 3.5 inches from the bust line down to the hip line. I'm going to connect it with a straight line. So for my underbust tightening, I'm going to come to the underbust line and mark 1 inch on both sides. Okay, so if you are a bit busty, you can use 1.25 or 1.5 inch. 1.5 inches on both sides and connect it together with a straight line down to the hip line like this. So after that, just come to the bust line and come down by 0.75. You can also use 1 inch if you are very busty for this. Then connect this from the under bust down to that point where you mark 0.75 with a curve like this. Okay, you are going to do this on both sides. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my body measurements. So for the chest line, I'm going to mark the bust circumference divided by 4. I'm working with a bust 33. Divided by 4, I'm going to mark it there, and I'm going to add 1 inch for seam allowance. I'll do the same thing on the bust line. Then on the underbust, I mark my underbust measurement, which I'm using 28 inches divided by 4. I'll take the dart allowance of 2 inches there, add it, and add the seam allowance of 1 inch. Same thing I'll do for the waist measurement. The waist measurement is 26 divided by 4. I mark it, add the dart allowance and the seam allowance. Then the hip as well, I'm using the hip 36 divided by 4. I'll mark it on the hip line, mark the dart allowance and the seam allowance, and after that I'm just going to go ahead and connect it with a curve like this. So I only went ahead to connect it down to the underbust with my marker, and then from the upper part I'll just use a pencil. Okay, this is me just to ensure that, okay, that is the final line I'll be using. I don't want to just be outlining and outlining. Okay, so after that, I'm going to be getting the curve for the cup area, and also determine the neck. Sorry, I'm going to determine the neck for that's the outer neck. I'm going to be achieving that. So I'm going to come to the bust line, and I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. So please, if you are very busty, it is advisable you stop at the bust line or you come above the bust line, because this is actually meant to reveal the cleavage, like to make the cleavage to be revealing. Okay, so if you are very busty, it is advisable to stop at that bust line or come up a bit. But because I'm not very busty, I'm going to be working with 1 inch below the bust line, and I'm going to place my curve from that 1 inch down to the under bust like this, and I'm going to connect them together. Okay, so you can see I connected a straight line from the shoulder line down to that 1 inch that I came down. That is where the neckline is going to start from. Okay, so now I'm taking my bust dart, which is the difference between my shoulder to waist in the front and shoulder to waist in the back. So I'm using a shoulder to waist of 16 inches for my front, and for the back I'm using 14.5, which gives me a difference of 1.5. So I marked 1.5 inches below the bust line, connected it to that bust pan line. Sorry, so at this point I want to close the bust dart, but for me to do that with ease I have to slash the dart open like this is what I'm doing. Okay, so before I close the dart, I'm going to come down from the waist at the side by 5 inches. Okay, I'm going to come down by 5 inches and I'm going to be connecting this to the center. Okay, so while I connected this to the center, I just remember that I'm supposed to take the measurement from the center, because the center is not going to be long up to the area where you have your hip. So I marked 6 inches from that start line at the center like this, and I connected that 5 inches to meet it. So you can still use 5 inches at the center, or whatever you want to use is fine. So we're not going to be using the first line, we're going to be using the second line I just marked now. So now for us to close the bust dart, I just had to cut the paper open because the excess at the side was making it difficult. So after slashing it open, I'll just go ahead and close the bust dart, and I'm going to use my tape to secure it well for it to stay. Okay, so after closing the dart, I'm just going to take my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 that I used earlier, which is 3.5, and from the center I'm going to mark that 3.5. So I'm supposed to add half an inch to this. Okay, then I'm supposed to also take the little allowance I have in the center. Okay, there's a little space at the center which is 0.25, which I'm supposed to add to make it 0.75. But if you are very busty, you're like 38 and above, please add just 1 inch allowance. Don't use 0.75 or 0.5. Okay, so that it can have full coverage. So after adding it, just connect it with your cuff to the underbust like this. Okay, so after that I'm going to open up the dart for now, so that I can get the upper part of the curve. So now from that point where I marked my 0.75, I extended it to the chest line like this. I'm going to use my marker to extend it to the chest line like that. So I just used my curve to actually get it to not be entirely straight, but to have a little bit of this curvy shape at that point. So what I'm going to do now is, because this is a halter neck, and because of the way it is, it's going to reveal the armhole area a little bit, and if you're very busty, it can also reveal the bust at that armhole area. So for us to cover up, I'm just going to come up by 0.5 inch. Now if you are busty, very busty, please come up by 1 inch or 0.75. Okay, so if you notice I'm also busty, that's why I'm going to be using 0.5. I drew a straight line there and I extended the chest line to meet that 0.5. So that will be the new armhole area. Now for the shoulder line, I came in by 1.5 inch from that shoulder line from the center. Then I'm going to connect that 1.5 inch to meet the new armhole, which is the 0.5 I came up from the chest line. You can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use a curve like this to connect them together, which will be the new armhole that we are going to be using. So I've gone ahead to connect it together like this. So you can actually use 1.25 or 1.5 or 2 inches for the halter neck width at the neck area. So it's up to you, whichever one you want to use. So after extending the armhole, I'm just going to go ahead and connect them using my marker to make it visible. So at this point we're actually done with this pattern. So I'm so sorry, I was trying to cut the pattern out. I did not know that I was not recording. So what I did is that I closed the bust dart and I connected the chest line to meet the bust line at that side. Then I went ahead to cut it out. So you can watch me while I'm doing this. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please give us a thumbs up, comment, share, and also subscribe to our channel so you can always be notified when we upload new videos. And if you have any question, please ensure to leave it in the comment section. So after cutting this out, I went ahead to label it. So this is what we are going to have. I went ahead to label it. Okay, so by the time you join the center of that underbust, it's going to be giving you a very good fitting. Okay, this is me trying to cut out a piece of paper that I'm going to be using to cut out the fabric for the neck at the back, because it's going to have an elastic there. So I just cut out a paper that is about 7 inches wide and 4 inches sorry, 7 inches wide and 4 inches long. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, because we use 1.5 inch 1.5 inches for the width of the halter neck at the neck area, that is the shoulder, we are going to be using 2 inches on both sides, which are going to be turning. So we are going to take half an inch to, join it together. So just like I cut this paper, we are going to join it with half an inch and turn it the other way. So by the time you turn it, it's going to be 1.5. So when you've turned it, you're going to put elastic inside of it, and you're going to be joining it to that neck shoulder area like this. You can see what I did. So you're going to be joining it on both sides, and then that will be the back. That will be how it look at the back. So now for the back pattern, I just went ahead to mark the lines of my chest line, on bust line, waistline, and then the hip. So because we know that we use a distance of 8 inches from the waist to hip, I'm also marking that waist to hip 8 inches like I did for the front, and I marked a straight line. Okay, so after that, I'm just going to label them, and I'm going to get my armhole measurement here. So I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2 like I did. Then I came down by 1 inch and imputed my armhole depth. So I went ahead to connect them together just like I did for the front parts. So we're not going to be using the neck area for this back pattern because it's actually backless, and we're already using that small piece of paper we just cut out, which we're going to be cutting for the fabric, and using elastic. We're going to be using that for the back neck. Okay, so we're not going to be using the neck area for this. So I'm marking my bust span divided by 2 from the chest line down to the hip line, and I went ahead to connect this with a straight line like this. So from the waist area, I came in by 0.75. You can come in by 0.5 if you want to, but if you're busty, you should come in by 0.75 or 1 inch on both sides. Then I'm connecting them to meet the chest line like this. Then from the waistline, I came down by 4 inches. I came down by 4 inches, and I went ahead to connect these lines together to meet that 4 inches that I marked earlier. So I'm just extending this line down to the hip line like this. So after this, I'm just going to impute my body measurements. My hip measurements of 36 inches divided by 4. I added 1 inch allowance. Same thing to the waist. I marked the waist measurement divided by 4. I marked the dart allowance and added the seam allowance. So if you want to tighten the waist, you can actually reduce it with whichever amount you want to tighten it, or you can leave it this way. So also for the bust measurement, I marked the bust measurement divided by 4 and added the allowance I needed to add. So after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and connect them together like this. Okay, so from the waistline, I came down by 5 inches, just like I did for the front pattern. I came down by 5 inches, and from the center, I came down by, that area at the center, I came down by 6 inches. And I went ahead to connect this together like this. Okay, so from that point, I extended it to the center back. So after doing this, I know that I'm not going to be using the lower part, that is the hip area again. So I brought the front pattern and I placed it on the back pattern to ensure that the sides are aligning properly, and yes, they are. So coming to the center back from the chest line area, I first work on the armhole area, because remember we came up by 0.5 inch from the chest line from the front area, so we have to make sure that it aligns with the back. So this is me connecting the armhole using the same way I did it for the front. Okay, where I came in from the center by 0.5 inch, that is center of the armhole depth, marking the bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line and connecting them together. So I came up from the chest line by 0.5 inch and I connected it with a straight line, which is the same thing I did for the front. Okay, then I extended the side to that 0.5 inch, and then after doing that, I came down from the chest line at the center back by 0.5 and I connected it to meet that armhole line I marked there, just like this. So at this point we are done. But if you want to add another dart, you want to have another opening, you can just divide the waist into 2 like that, draw a straight line and mark about half an inch on both sides, and then when you mark it, you connect it together like the way we connected our darts, and then you can cut it out as well. Then from the center back, I marked 1.5 inches on the chest line and down to the length of the dress, of the top rather. Then I also mark lacing bars, that is marking circles indicating where our lacing is going to be. So after doing that, I'll just go ahead and cut it. So remember, if you want to add extra darts to this. You can add it just like the way I explained, and when you add it, you're going to be cutting it out the same way we are cutting this dart out. Okay, so after cutting this, we are done with this pattern. So if you find this tutorial very helpful, please ensure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Okay, after doing that, ensure you label your patterns very well. Okay, so if you have any question, please leave it in the comment section. At the end of the day, this is what we have. Please ensure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. See you guys in my next video.